Well, boys, we're heading into another match between Neblime and Hamster, this time on Otherworld, another map by yours truly. Let's see what we see so far. Neblime in the bottom right has the Zerg, and Hamster in the top right has the Protoss. What is this, Alice Blue? Glacial. Glacial. Love me some Glacial. We got Mango down here. Okay, so a little bit more precise on the colors. Sometimes I like to hit you guys with that. I guess realistically we should start like a tally and people can comment the color they think it is before I actually leave the video there. Maybe that's something better if we end up doing like premieres for these videos. Not 100% sure, but that can definitely be something I incorporate into the live casts. You know, sometimes you do like to have a little bit more levity to when you open up a cast, and that's true in Cosmonarchy just like it's true in other RTS matches, and I think maybe that's something that I might be able to go ahead and throw down there for the context of, say, I want to say maybe stuff like the Gauntlet qualifier that's going to be coming up for Acropolis, numero uno, the very first big name 1 versus 1 competitive tournament that we're going to be getting for Cosmonarchy in 2024. So make sure to join our Discord server so you can be kept apprised as to when that is going down. And yeah, just stay tuned, man. We got some pretty cool updates coming, as well as some improvements to the installation process that are really going to jumpstart this whole community thing. Hamster doing his best to jumpstart some harassment against Neblime, as we do have that macro hatch going down kind of close to this in-base, but again, similar to what we saw on that Impetus match just moments ago, if you're watching this right back-to-back with the other cast that I released the day before. One of the things that you'll notice is that Hamster is on the board, and the way that he's on the board, well, it was very interesting, wasn't it? Nonetheless, what is Neblime planning here? There's a pool coming down. We do have a second gate on the way, as well as a Legionnaire opener. And honestly, I wonder if maybe Neblime might be fearing the Scribe a little bit. He is keeping track of it with his worker, which is taxing his economy. I mean, he is down a worker in terms of efficient mining already before you account for this. So that is, you know, you consider 2 of his 12 workers are busy harvesting. This one's actually rallied so that it can turn into a Kagrant. So yeah, he's essentially got 10 workers on, or maybe no, 9 workers on minerals right now compared to his opponent, who is much more steadily harvesting with a value of 12. So that's a pretty big deal. I would say that's a pretty big deal. And the double Kagrant is on the way. The Legionnaire, again, can just walk right past it. And it feels to me like this is something that Neblime is going to have to learn to deal with. I don't think that the answer is necessarily what he's done here. It does feel like maybe that comes online a little bit too late. You know, macro hatch into pool, maybe with a little bit more efficient mining and tasking there, and maybe you don't... I mean, you want to scout, so there is a concern there. But regardless, he does end up picking off the Legionnaire thanks to the Mass Zets. The Circuith is there to get rid of the Scribe, and now the Dracodins, and of course, other content here. Yeah, Hamster's going to need to pull this stuff back. He really needs to watch out for what he can potentially get overwhelmed by. And as he's taking the back base, right, going off into the other world, which is the namesake of this map, all of these Zets are going to head out over there. We're going to be seeing him attacking that Nexus, so I'm looking forward to seeing what's up with that. I think that'll be very interesting. Now we do have, of course, additional Kagrants coming online here for defense. This Scribe is wisely moving over here. I don't know that Hamster paid attention to that on the minimap, because his camera did not go over there. Dracodins are... No, I thought maybe they were going to shuffle over, but that is not going to be the case. This Nexus could get forced to cancel. I mean, Zetracores do a lot of damage to structures. Let's see if they even want to. Yep, there it is. Starting to jump right on top of them. The Dracodins now scrambling, but only 2 of them. The other 2 being idle right now. Now they're being roped in. And yeah, that Nexus could get canceled. Yep, there it is. I think maybe he could have held it for a little bit longer, but you know, maybe you can force your opponent to at least bleed out some of their early military units, and maybe then, you know, again, the Zerg might feel like he's got to do some things. But instead, yeah, it looks like the lower ground base will be taken. Now, this one has less Vespene. You'll notice there's no ridge here for this base over here, but there are more minerals, so there is that to consider. All right, there's only 6 minerals down here, so depending on what you want, it kind of does like force, you know, what you're thinking here. Now, a pylon has been dropped. That was just for scouting, most likely, as the Scribe has been picked apart by Quasilisks, no doubt. Or maybe it was the Zeths. Either way, we've got some more rallies coming down over here. I wonder what's up with that. Yeah, Hamster correcting that right now. I'm interested. I wonder what exactly he's planning to tech into. He's got the embassy coming. His opponent only now taking the in-base, which affords you some amount of economy, but, you know, no natural really being taken here by Neblime. And the early harassment seems to have died down. Quasis are now making their way with some Zethra towards this next location, but that Nexus is a lot further along, and there's a lot of Dracodons now that can actually stand toe-to-toe with this force. They are coming down to meet the Quasis, and the Quasis deal much worse versus structures because of their low performances versus armor. And there you have it. Nexus will come online after all. And then we can start the saturation process. I did see an Ovaleth get made. We've got another Zethra just guarding that 12 o'clock position. And the Ovaleth is going to be carrying a Kagrant with it. Now, where, pray tell? Okay, this is an interesting location to drop it. That's not a bad idea, per se. Although he does have to worry about this massive Dracodons maybe just walking through. He doesn't have anything to really hold here. He's going to have to pull his forces back so that he can body block that, because Hamster's starting to figure out things like, oh yeah, I can just walk through that. And you could tell that Neblime was a little nervous about that. So he's going to go down and throw an additional structure down. Relying so heavily on static defense, it feels like, yeah, okay, Hamster would incur some losses moving up this ramp. But if he was able to pick off and thin the herd of like the actual combat units, maybe using that scribe to kind of lure those Quasis further closer to his Dracodon force, it feels like he could have maybe done something there to be a little bit more on the aggressive side. Ovaleth now making its way over. We've got more static defense being erected over there. Zealot coming down. Might be an optimal tank and a witness to spy on his opponent. After that, all scribes. So yeah, Neblime has taken control of the game in terms of the economics, but his forces are obviously much more reliant on these static defenses in order to contest Hamster. We'll see what the reaction is to this. He's considering maybe falling back for this Ovaleth, but luckily for him, there's actually nothing in it. So that's a situation where if he had decided to go throw some of the Quasis in there, you know, maybe he could have actually gotten some value out of that, but that's a pretty spooky situation to be in. Now, the Hydrith Den has been spotted here. The witness considering, you know, what kind of information to relay back, and we have an Ardent Authority being started over here at the Natural. So this structure for the Protoss is essentially what you want to get for the siege. We see the corpse of the Zealot here, which tells a grim tale of what happened over there. And that does mean that, you know, Hamster's thinking about throwing down the Architects or maybe the Cantors, seeing what he can do in that realm of things. A couple of Dracodons taking some fights over here. Looks like at least one of them had died earlier. The rest of them will be caught. Hamster just doing what he can to distract his opponent as he withdraws with the rest of his forces. Ceding control, adding more static defense here is Neblime. And he is saturating his gas. He's sort of saturating his ridge down here. Does have nice saturation overall in all three of the mining areas that he's put up. A second Ardent Authority on the way as well. Ovaleth has now bit the dust. I was wondering what they were shooting at. And yeah, another base now coming online for Hamster. I guess that's the real 12 o'clock, which would make this 11. So I will correct myself there. The Zeth was at 11. 12 o'clock getting a couple of structures being put down here and starting to saturate the minerals. Hamster is choking on minerals a little bit here. He's not really able to get too much going there. And we do have the ski-backed scab coming again. The Ovaleth now revealing that there is indeed a witness there. That should be something that Hamster takes notice of, because the last time on Sideshow, we did see the handiwork of Neblime, where he went for a mass late Skith timing. And, you know, Hamster was still kind of competitive in that match. It was actually quite surprising that he was able to, you know, bridge the gap there. Kind of goes to show you how on a knife's edge you are if you're trying to really go super heavy against the opponent's economy. You don't have forces that can then actually counteract, so you kind of have to use this really slow to assemble strategy, like with all the static defense at the key locations. You got to invest so much Vespene into that because you also need the Ovaleth, right? But in the end, it was too much economic damage for Hamster to survive, and the mass Hydras were a pretty good choice there from Neblime. I'm sure if you played that game back, both players would have done things differently, but it feels like it was a fairly even shot. And also, it's kind of nice to know that, as the designer of the game, that even massing out these units like Skits and killing a bunch of enemy workers, it's not a surefire way to win, and so hopefully it won't be as quite so abusive. Now, interestingly, we have the one at Cantor for Siege, but everything else has been positrons. So I do think that he noted, Hamster that is, the ski-backed scab. He knows that, okay, I'm going to throw down an engram in my natural. And maybe also in the third. Yep, he's already got one constructed there. This Avaleth is indeed going to come over here and just spy. It's a really dirty psychological trick to send the Avaleth out. Not only do you get the scout off, but you also make your opponent worried that there's something in there. And there is no witness over in this location to confirm the sighting. Actually, the witness is now in the bottom left corner. We do have another base going down there as well, and 7 o'clock has been taken, meanwhile. So Neblime thinking about going up to a 4th base, as his Iral Iris has begun. Guarding many of the other base locations that Hamster may decide to take. Now going for the in-base as a guaranteed amount of resources. Got a lot of workers idling over there on the rally points as he moves through and starts his journey. These Zets are, I think, out of range of actually seeing their opponents. Some redundancy pylons coming online makes a lot of sense. Yep, there we go. Has cleaned those up and announced his presence. That is going to scramble the response from Neblime as he tries to get himself into such a situation. But you know what? His Iral Iris coming online could mean that he turns a lot of his circuits into Scortriths, and that could be the time to strike, although Hamster has had his witness ousted, so it's not quite so simple. Now, Dracodens are here. There's not really that much here for support, so a couple of them are going to get bopped. Right, we don't have any golems or anything like that. Not enough, he says. Talking about the sheer number of static defense, no doubt. Now we're seeing the Scortriths be mutated piecemeal here. Still not taking the low ground base, right? That's like one thing where our players are actually going to be on even bases. Skither cores have arrived, but unfortunately for them, they are not going to be able to get too many frags here. In fact, they weren't even able to kill that last scribe. There's no static defense up here, but yeah, 1 shot and 3 kills from that engram. Love to see that. And so that's an instantaneous counter, and all of the gas that was spent on those Skither cores has evaporated. You can thank your lucky stars for that. Taking the interior 6 is Hamster, so expanding more towards the middle, more towards his opponent, kind of shows you the more aggressive stance he wants to take in this particular match. Another Warden coming online here at the 3rd. So yeah, with 12 and 6 being mostly secured by both of our requisite players, we do have some gas caps coming here for Neblime. Hamster's already done his main up, but none of the other bases just yet. And adding some Argosies, so he can mix in some air with this force. An Alkagiteth, Matravel Nest, both of those structures on the way here, as the Vornath Pond is on the way as well, so that's very interesting. We're going to have some serious customization and specialization, perhaps, of Neblime's military force. Witness has returned from its maiden voyage, coming back with the intent of spotting for the artillery that is here. Although, actually, I don't know where the artillery is. It's got to watch out, though. Units getting picked apart. We've got 3 Acantors on the way. Only problem is that their range is 8, and the Scorchith range is 8, plus the 2 range that you get from the Cliff Advantage. So that's not super ideal. We now have Magisters. Okay, you know what? Magisters are not a bad show, because when you debuff a unit with a Magister, shots then get +2 weapon range for it. So not too bad here. Now, unfortunately, the Cantors are getting targeted by these offenses. So it feels like here Hamster is he's pulling the trigger maybe a little bit too soon, unfortunately for him. Now, thankfully, somehow, one of his Acantors did not end up getting killed there. But a lot of those Scarabs, a lot of those Plasma Shells, hit the Hatcherosk instead of any of the defenses. So that ended up being wholly inefficient, and he absolutely could have gone for Architects instead to maybe stand a better chance. Particularly if you go Architect Magister, the artillery will then outrange the static defenses, right? So that looks like a really difficult thing to do there, but he had the tools on the way to maybe secure this location and actually punish his opponent for ceding him so much ground. And it felt like he pulled the trigger a little bit too fast, because now he can't even necessarily respond to an attack on the interior 6. Starting to set up the 11 o'clock base, but there's a couple of Zeths running by there to pick that base apart. And it feels like, yeah, this one might be going away from Hamster. He's certainly behind in terms of worker count, but he does have some Solarians on the way. I suppose that'll be particularly adept at dealing with the static defense, but it'll have to contend with all the forces. And now, yeah, Interior 6, or Interior 12 rather, is under attack. Hamster gonna have to deal with that. We got some Vilgoricors here. Mostly there to support the front line versus things like the Dracodens, but the Magisters are getting chilled. Yeah, okay. Nearly dead there on the front line one. In fact, yep, one of them is going to go down, and there goes the other as well. Vilgorkors are in the back, which is not ideal. The Carapace form is starting to activate here for a couple of these spots, and indeed, when they die, they turn into the Vilgaleths, which spawn more Rillarokors there. But really the big targets here are the Tetzorokors. That is going to be a really big deal, because as long as they're actually on you, they're healing themselves, which obviously keeps them alive for longer. Now, here comes a re-engage. The Scribe's also body blocking. Unfortunately, they're allowing a lot of splash damage. You can see just how how much HP the Tetzorokor was regenerating there because of the short-lived amount of Scribes. Here comes the Solarian, deploying 12 interceptors, but some of them are indeed getting bopped. Yeah, in fact, the Hydras are busy dealing with these. And the Carapace forms are starting to spread inside the base. It only shields for 100 damage before dying, so it's not the most immediate, like most immense amount of success there, but it does feel like it's enough of a padding that it's taking a very long time for some of these units to actually be effective. Nonetheless, I think with the Crucible here enchanting the Ardent Authorities training times, we should be just fine. Hamster will hold on, but he's definitely lost a decent amount of forces here. He's got, I like the Matroleth off to the side. Zeth's now making their way across the other side of the map. 11 o'clock was indeed shut down and destroyed. That Nexus was finished, so no cancel there, although minerals are not currently a problem for Hamster. He's staring down the barrel of having to add an Ancestral Archives to his next round. And he has actually discovered the Zeths and etc. Oh, actually, you know what? This is when he reported a bug where the Ensnaring Brood overlay was appearing over the burrowed units. I've actually since fixed that. So that's something that obviously I will be able to I'll be able to stand proud and say, don't worry, Hamster, you won't be able to get that advantage in the future. Now, this is a very large number of Zeths, and there is a Matroleth once again over here, so maybe there will be something. Oh, I know what he's going to be doing. He's going to be attacking with nothing but Zeths, and then throw down a Vilgaleth for the sake of putting down some extra details. I think he also wants to make use of the new infestation behaviors. Now, a bunch of Vithrilisks have arrived. You can tell by their overlay that they were made from Oxal Larva. And yeah, that Solarian is getting absolutely shellacked. Not only that, but the debuff is spreading to reduce the armor of the ground units temporarily there. At the same time, here comes the infestation. I'm sure we're going to be seeing that momentarily. And the Cantors, the Positrons, etc. are coming online to do their best to hold back the Horde. But it's not happening to his natural. Let's see if it happens. Where is it? Where's the cast, bro? Well, he's thinking about it. He hasn't actually done it yet. I don't know if he's realized that he can do it. Does he know? No? No, he's not. Does he not know? He could be taking over this stuff. He's a goober, guys. He doesn't even know the ability. Aw, man. That's all right. One of these days he'll learn. The Orchestra Corps is doing a very, very good job of things right now. Particularly versus the Acantors, which are otherwise just going to absolutely mop the floor with all the ground targets, right? Now that the Acantors are in the back behind the Dracodons, this is working out a little bit better. And this force has indeed been cleaned up. We've got more and more units spawning in. 9 o'clock has been taken. We've got plenty of air defenses in these locations. No ground defenses, so a drop or just sending out a couple of Zealots for a run-by or something would be pretty effective. And the Acantors can turn and fight it at this point because they're definitely going to die. But looks like Hamster's a little bit busy trying to saturate his Interior 12 again. He's definitely lost a lot of the momentum in this particular match, but you know what? He has the technology to potentially hold out versus what Neblime is making. At the same time, you look at the banks. Neblime has a lot more Vespene, which is a pretty big deal, but both of our players floating a lot of minerals. Something to consider for them to improve in the future. Got to keep that money low, you know? Another engram being warped in. I think Hamster's forgotten that he's got Solarians and stuff in that 12 o'clock base. And indeed, losing Interior 12 yet again. Upper middle. is not looking too hot. Now Interior 6 being taken by Neblime, or just about. I'm really surprised there were no architects being made out of these Arden authorities. That is a little shocking to me. I definitely expected that, but you know, we're seeing a lot of stuff here. 4 hatches coming down, and some of his forces are sort of returning back to protect this investment, maybe. But the other forces are over here dealing with this. It's a bit of a chaotic game for Neblime. He's wiggling now, falling back. Solarians have rejoined the fight. Almost 200 workers here. Neblime is living up to his reputation as a workermeister. All right, trying to mass up all the forces. The engagements are coming in. Players trying to grab more units and bring them on down. You can see here, adding them to the control group is Hamster. And Tier 3 is on the way for Neblime at the same time as this, so got to keep that in mind. It doesn't look like these Solarians are going to be able to make too many moves, and as soon as Neblime pulls the trigger and attacks over here, well, I guess he's worried about the funnel over here with all the Positrons dealing splash and all the idols dealing splash as well. It still feels like with the Viths and the Almax, he could just walk in here and destroy the Solarians. He's especially... Okay, maybe he was waiting for the Matrolith, because now he's going to ensnare, and it's going to be even harder to deal with. Spending some of our money, both of our players doing their darndest to do that. Vithrilisk's getting popped left, right, and center. Yeah, if you engage with the ground forces, it's actually a lot more of a deadly army to deal with. And now adding more Kagrins, doing his best here. Neblime wants to hold on to this territory if he can. He thought maybe he could just finish off that Nexus, but it didn't end up happening. Now here's the casts. Vilgalet's trying their darndest to add more brood spawn and actually make use of all the corpses. And look at that, the Solarians are starting to get shredded now that the Viths have engaged the force. I don't know, this is looking pretty hard. Neblime actually, I feel like he might have just forgotten about most of his units, honestly. He's left a bunch of them. It looks like Hamster has actually grabbed a lot of his, so... Bactylisk's now chewing through. Yeah, these Akistra cores are just hanging out. Trying to take over the ramp. Yeah, this is giving Hamster the better engagement for sure as he continues to try to saturate. Tasking some of his workers on to gas. The static defense continuing to be erected. Neblime really feels a little lost in the sauce. But back at home, he's just made a Zorkish Shroud. I'm sure he's going to mutate that into the Tier 3. And, of course... actually, do we have the Almakus Anter yet? Looking around for it. No, yeah, it would be this structure right here. So he doesn't have the evolved version of that, because you can make his Thraitholeths now directly from the Vilgoricor, which we saw him use very, very minimally. Here comes another Matrolith cast, doing its best to just sow a little bit more chaos. Actually, you can see Hamster trying to focus that down. It's not a bad show. He's trying to get more and more of his units to the front lines. The Crucible's being very, very good for him right now. Epigraphs being added, more lattices as well. So epigraphs are kind of like good single target units. Hamster realizing he's got a lot of idle workers all over the place. Matroliths are taking a lot of splash damage here. And Neblime mostly keeping a lot of his like Vithrilisks. This is like an anti-air hit squad or something. But he wants to keep them away from all the splash, I guess, is what he's thinking. He could definitely be harassing the actual base with that. No! No! It's true. It's absolutely true. And Neblime's just wondering why he's saying no. I think it's just because he's realizing he's losing the fight. I'm not sure, though. Hamster's a funny guy. It was cool to get UED Commander to translate for him, but right now, I don't think there is any such translation available. Well, that's a quote. All right, now everybody's come out with the charges. We got more Viths coming in. The big rally has hit, I think. Yeah, all the Almax have come in. It's so weird that those were idle for so long, but, you know, can't argue with what's working. And I guess technically this is working. Trying to do his best to warp in more static defense, but that's not working. Talk about what's not working. Oh man, I would love to see more spellcasts here, but there's a bunch of units being sent in to the other side. And it feels like Okay, you've got some of these engrams and stuff, but you could send in some Teths or maybe some heavier ground units like the Avigorlisk. He's got all of the tech, basically. He's making some Zarkavor right now, so... And here's the Alcagilisk. I feel like maybe Neblime had a little bit too much fun in this game. Sweet mother of mercy. GG, well played. He could have probably closed this a lot sooner. But you know what? We got to see a lot of the endgame Zerg tech at least. And, you know, there were some opportunities for Hamster to close there. I feel like he pushed his advantages territorially as best as you could. There's a lot of value in expanding towards your opponent on a map like Otherworld, where it felt like Neblime ceded a lot of that middle control and instead went for the more satellite bases around the bottom strip. And it's funny, because a lot of the competitive maps that I'm going to be trying to work on are going to have details like that, where yes, there's like territory that you fight over, but there's also neutral territory that you can expand into. And I didn't really look at Otherworld in that light until just now in that game, where it does feel like there's, you know, a push and a pull. There's like some stuff you can do here, stuff you can do there. And so we did see some of that in that game. And so shout outs to Neblime versus Hamster, but Neblime will take the lead in the series, going up 2-1. What's going to happen next time? Well, I guess you'll have to tune in and find out.